Hey, good evening. It's episode 2, right? The deuce, number 2. Got to throw the curve. It's Middle Game Live. Here we're Monday night, February 27th. I'm getting ready to get on an airplane first thing in the morning to head down to Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Go see some of my guys down there and see how they're playing. But thank you for joining me tonight on our second episode of Mental Game Live. Your feedback, your comments, your questions have been fantastic. I really appreciate it. We're trying to do something here with Mental Game Live that brings the mental game into a real world perspective. In other words, let's talk about things. Let's have those conversations. You don't need to go down the road and have to, keep things in secrecy. This isn't a private meeting. In fact, if you're a coach, I want you to invite every player you know. Like, I need you to invite people to watch Mental Game Live. I need you to give me feedback of what works, what doesn't. We've got some amazing guests lined up for the future. We've got some episodes coming up that are going to focus on things that you struggle with on a regular basis, like the yips, coaching young players of today, dealing with anxiety, you name it. We got some cool stuff coming up. To do that, though, we need to know that the feedback is there, and we got to hear from you. So I'm honored by the response. Like, I literally thought I'd be talking to myself on a camera in the first week, and that's not the case. And so I'm already seeing questions popping up, which is cool. But I need you to send people and say, hey, free content, Mental Game. If you want to get better, stop talking about it, start doing it. Let's get on Mental Game Live. There's no hook. There's nothing here. But we're going to share some cool stuff tonight. Now, let's do our weekly review. Take a look at what's happened in the week of sports. So if you take a look at, I don't know if you watched yesterday, and I always watch the PGA Tour because the PGA Tour is one of those events, and the LPGA Tour likewise. It's one of those environments of a sports where players are so much on an island. They can't call timeout and a coach walks out and talks to them. They can't slow them down. They can't make a pitching change to bring in a closer on the 72nd hole. They can't make equipment changes or put in a pinch runner or anything like that. And so what you see on the PGA Tour is you see a week of work that comes down into the bigger pressure moments. And forever you've heard people say tournaments get real on the back nine on Sunday. No more evident than that, than at Masters, the U.S. Open, the PGA Championship, the Players Championship, or the Open Championship over in Great Britain and United Kingdom. What happens is those moments have increased pressure. Well, this week at the Honda Classic, you saw some really cool storylines. One I'm going to talk about a little bit later about Monday qualifiers. But right now we're going to talk about the champion, Chris Kirk. Chris played great all week. In fact, I saw a post earlier in the week by his swing coach, Scott Hamilton. Big fan of Scotty Ham. We call him Pro. For the work that he does. And he's been with Chris for a long time. I've known Chris for a long time. And I just love the way he goes about his business. The thing about Chris is he's been very open about his own struggles, particularly with alcoholism, and how he turned his life and found who he was in those moments. And he hasn't won in a couple years, but he's been knocking and he's been doing great. And so I saw a post by Scotty Ham earlier in the week, and I was like, that's a guy to get behind. I'm not talking betting. I'm just saying in general, like, he's going to play well at the Honda because ball striking is on point. There's a lot of risk out there. And I have a feeling his experience is going to bring him home. Well, lo and behold, as he went through 3 rounds, he had a couple shot lead, lost that lead in the final round to a young upstart pro. Not really young by tour player perspectives, but more importantly, somebody who'd been around. He was a pedigree player. His dad was a pro. His mom was a legendary pro. And so he'd been fighting the battles of mini tours. And here we are on the back nine on Sunday, and they have to go through the bear trap. They get down to the 18th hole, par 5, birdie hole, going to get after it. Chris Kirk hits it right in the middle of the fairway. Eric Cole's in great position, and Kirky gets up and hits it 80 yards right into the water. So far right that he almost hits the stationary car that Honda had parked out there. That would have been great. In fact, at that point, I would have thought he did it on purpose. But Eric hits it and has to get it up and down. If he makes birdie, he probably wins. And Chris drops, hits his 4 shot up there, has about 15 feet for par. So really tight. Eric, brilliant short game, hits it hard, and it rolls up against the collar, which is a really tough pitch coming back. Chip leaves it short, makes his par. Chris bogeys, they go to the playoff. Pressure's high, right? First-time winner, somebody who hasn't won in many years. Imagine the thoughts that are going through. So when we look at that as parents and coaches, instead of asking our players, like, why did you do that? The question is, what were you feeling? What were you experiencing in those moments? Even those individuals will get bombarded with swing thoughts and bad thoughts and seeing the water and all that other stuff. And somebody just asks, how do you block them out? You don't block them out. What you do is you focus in and you dial in the station that you want by not focusing on the things you don't want, but like acknowledging it. Chris, even when he made a drop, he laughed, brought it back, said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And he probably drew on years and years of experience. So in the playoff, he pumps his drive right behind a tree and has to pitch out. And Eric hits it over the green, probably with a little bit of adrenaline. And then Chris walks up there with his wedge and hits it to about, 6 inches. And Eric couldn't get it up and down. Really tough shot to hit. That's the cool thing that we can all learn from. And that's why Mental Game Live is here. Chris Kirk, Eric Cole, and then we'll talk about the Monday qualifier for Ryan Gerard here in a little bit, what they went through to find their process in that moment. Too many times we measure ourselves against it, like I failed, versus what did I learn there? Chris Kirk earlier in the year had 2 opportunities to win and didn't close, and those reasons are why he won yesterday. Congrats, Chris. I'm proud of you. Let's dive into the pitch clock in Major League Baseball. I get this question a lot. And I'm going to look at the questions that are coming in and stuff like that, and I'll grab them as I go. This guy's the best. Are you talking about me or Basham, Double J? Because it could keep you either way. But when we take a look at the pitch clock, right, I got a call today from one of my Major League players who said, dude, this is weird. He goes, man, it's awkward. So the pitch clock was something that was started by Major League Baseball, has been adopted in the college ranks now. And it'd been around minor leagues for a little while. But the whole idea of the pitch clock is that when the bases are empty, the pitcher has 15 seconds to make the next pitch. The batter must be in the batter's box with 8 seconds remaining. So what you've watched, if you watch Major League games over the last couple of years, they drag on forever between pitching changes, shifts, pinch hitters, and then all the stepping out and stepping back in that I give a little bit of blame to the mental game. People are like, hey, let's center ourselves. Let's get reset. Let's get refocused. And that's a problem. So what the pitch clock does is let's go. Let's play the game. We know how to play. Let's go. And when they have a runner on, they have 20 seconds. The pitcher has. And if not, if the pitcher doesn't perform, they give up a ball. If the hitter doesn't get it done, they get a strike. Okay. But what does it really do? Okay. Everybody's going to make a big draw about the shifts and all this other stuff. And the pitch clock is there, but it's going to teach players that the clock that they have in their head will create tension and pressure. But those who have an anchoring mechanism, like I talked with my player today, we came up with a very clear mechanism that takes that long to get the mind settled in on a plan and then refocused on what they need to do. It's awesome. So this pitcher can get in and help immediately. So does a mental cue help with focus during a bat, like the whole clear the mechanism type of moment? Or is there a process that can be passed along to young players? Oh, that's what it was, John. Thank you. I just saw the water go out there. So thank you. But it was still a miss for him. All right. I like the story better. I almost hit the car. So missed the grass by a foot. All right. Well, I like my story better. Okay. But if you have a point when somebody steps in, you can walk in and take the back corner of the plate and use that as your anchoring stop. As your foot's getting in, you can take a deep breath. As a pitcher, I can get the pitch, take a look at the ground, take a deep breath, and go. That doesn't take but a second or two. So when you're coming in there, it doesn't have to be clear. Nobody's ever going to have a super clear mind in hitting or pitching. I doubt Basham ever had a super clear mind when he was hitting, particularly facing some of the guys that he faced. I know I didn't have a super clear mind. I had a much more intentional mind and purpose-driven mind. Let's talk about LIV Golf a little bit. I'm fascinated by LIV. And in full disclosure, I have a player that plays for LIV. I've also got some other friends that are out there. And it's fascinating. I've been to a couple of the events, and it's unique. It's different. But the element that's really cool right now is the team event. And I think where people say, well, I'm not really that interested in it. The whole team event came about as being a secondary to a longer season. So now I think the team event's being forced into an individual tournament. But I do think that the team event has some element. Because one of the things that I hear from players a lot is, look, I may be out of it, but when I'm playing for a team, I'm grinding more. Just like in baseball, soccer, basketball. When you're out there and you have to play defense for your teammates, even though you may be having a bad day, it's easier to play for somebody else. What makes golf or tennis hard is you're rarely playing for another person. You got to learn how to play for yourself as if you are your teammate. And it's a great message to see how somebody's grinding is like, it doesn't matter. I'm not having my day, to, hey, let's get this last stroke in. Let's get this last ball in. Just like playing baseball, right? If I've got to get a runner over from second with less than 2 outs, I've got to be willing to do what it takes, even if I'm not seeing the ball well or I'm not fielding it well. In basketball, I can still bring energy to the court. I can still dive for loose balls. I can still shut off the lane if my shot feels off. That's the cool element of LIV. Let's talk about college basketball. I got this question the other day. Why do so many top players tend to fall apart, or top teams seem to fall at this time of year? And one of them is very few teams have the history and the experience of being number one. Having played on a team for 5 years that was number one more than it was not, it takes a lot that every place you go, people are gunning for you. Full disclosure, I work for the University of Alabama. Our football team has been number one over the last 10 years. I don't know how long. Everywhere they go, they sell out. Everybody wants to take them down. And so what it means is you've got to be better at dealing with the noise, not trying to play up to a number one status. When people have success, they try to recreate the success. But the best that play at number one aren't trying to recreate it. What they're trying to do is realize that they're in a little bit more volatile land, and they have to do the little things, the simpler things better. If you look in golf, world number ones don't stay there very long because the goal is to become number one, not stay there. Usually when you see players return back to number one, they have a different mindset, kind of like my guy John Rahm. He's got a mindset to stay there now. So it's not just about being number one, it's about staying there and extending what that takes. But in the golf world, if you're number one, every day you show up, you got press conferences, people are expecting you. If you have a bad day, it's like, well, come on, you're number one. A team has a bad game against an opponent in basketball or football, and they're number one. It's like, oh, come on. How can a number one team do that? So some of those things to think about. And last, let's talk about Monday qualifiers. The cool thing about golf, PGA Tour golf, is that there are Monday qualifiers. And yeah, Wes, I'll talk about the anchoring in a minute. Monday qualifiers is you have the opportunity to progress through qualifying system to play in any regular open style event, right? And it can be anybody if you qualify to be there. The cool thing is it could be a life-changing experience. So just like this week, Ryan Girardi, young player on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is the developmental tour for the PGA Tour, played his way up and made, I think, over $400,000. And that's a life-changing thing. Now he's going to go back on the Korn Ferry Tour. And the question, and one of the things that happens is a lot of times players who Monday qualify don't play well in tournaments, or they don't play well when they go back to the Korn Ferry Tour because they don't have that intensity and that drive, and that it's not as loud, right? It's not as big as stages. And that is a great time to work on your craft and to improve it, right? So I love the Monday qualifier approach. This week, 3 out of the 4 Monday qualifiers qualified and made the cut going into the weekend, which is pretty remarkable, particularly on a very challenging course. Shows you the depth of the game and the difficulty. Before we get on to segment 2, Wes, you had a question about how to explain some anchoring with some tour players. So one of the most famous ones was kind of a trigger and anchor you saw Tiger Woods would pull on his glove. That was his way of, if we go back to the first episode, the funnel, it's like we locked in at that moment. I've had a player who would go through all of his mechanics and he would talk to his caddy and he would stand behind and he'd pull on his glove, and now it was like, I'm in. If you watch other players, they'll tuck a shirt or they'll do something like that. It's like, I'm in. The biggest mistake that players make is that they're like mixing two things together. I don't want you to be in a hurry to mess up, but I want you to kind of lock in and, all right, here we go. Now I'm in. And that little anchor is like, my feet are here. Doesn't matter where I'm at, I'm anchored. So that's an easy way to do it. How do you remain calm when things are out of control, when you're a control freak? Flights being canceled 2 days in a row here in Toronto. Hate to hear that. But maybe it's a blessing they were canceled. That's the way I look at it. Maybe there's a bigger story at play. All you can do is ride with what you got. Let's go to segment 2. We're going to talk about capability and capacity right after this. Thank you. And hey, listen, keep sitting in the comments. I like to answer questions as we go along, keeps it fresh, keeps me from feeling like I'm getting preachy. It's kind of a weird thing looking in a camera and talking, and I hope you guys are listening. Pearson Airport is a mess, I would imagine. I've only been to Toronto once, loved it, yet to be back. But the one thing I'll tell you is I like to hear your feedback. I want to know what I can do to get better. I want to know how we can get better. So please send us. You don't have to trash me online if you don't want to. But I also want you to share this. Mental Game Live is a passion of mine. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Very fortunate to have it. We're going to continue to develop. It's going to be really cool. We got some great guests coming up, and we're going to get there eventually. So, all right. Let me throw to Bash here. He's got a little video here. It's probably going to get taken down by YouTube at some point, but we're going to run with it while we can. So, Billy Horschel, one of my longtime clients, love that attitude. And this is what we're going to lead into tonight. And I know that's going to get taken down, but I had to get it out there. We had to shoot our shot, right? What is so brilliant about that is what Billy has learned over time, and I'm very honored that he has trusted me in this, is that we don't always have our stuff. It's what we do with the stuff that we have that differentiates the good from the great. Billy's inside the top 20 in the world. He's been up as high. I think he got to number 11 this time last year a little bit. So he's getting ready to make another surge. And what I love about what he's describing is we can be really hard on ourselves. And so often I think coaches, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but we teach to this like great day, like we're really ready. Let's go out and have a great day. When reality is most great days start by average starts. I was walking the fairways over and I think I talked about it last week. I was walking the fairways with a pitcher. I said, do you go out there trying to throw a perfect game every day? He's like, no, I go out there trying to get the first guy out. And it's true. Pitchers don't think about that, but golfers think, my God, today could be special. Like I could see myself shooting that perfect day. When in reality, no other sport really walks out there and thinks, I'm going to go 14 of 14 from 3-point land. Or I'm going to go, I'm going to throw for 375 in a game. Like I'm going to try to block it together. But in golf, because of the way we train, and we train to a point of feeling good and feel confident, and the next day we think we're going to replicate that in a completely different environment, we lose. So a couple of years ago, I was sitting down talking to a player, and we came up with this concept called capability and capacity. And I think Basham's going to put up Tiger would put it in the back of his stance and sting it home that day, exactly when he didn't have it. And capability and capacity is this idea that every day we train and we compete, and those are our skills and our talents and our God-given abilities and things that we're capable of doing. And on that side, if you see on the left side, your capabilities, that's like a talent contest, right? And you line them up. And those are days, if you look at it, it's like, this is what I'm truly capable of. And there may be, for some of us, that may be a really strong toolkit. And for others, there may be times in our life where it's a little smaller. But what matters is when we step across that white line and we go compete. Because there's never going to be a day where you have 100% of what you're capable of. You may have a really, really good day, but you may have 75%, 80%, 63%. The difference is if you could put your thumb on a scanner and it would say, all right, Brett, you're going to go play today. Today, you have 68% of your abilities. The question that I have for you is, are you chasing what's missing in your capabilities? Or are you competing with what you have? Okay. And truth, Steve says it right. It's mental flexibility at its highest. Can I take what I have and adapt it? Can I beat you with the 68%? Now let's go back to math here. Okay. If I've got a bigger bucket, tool chest over here, huge. And that tells me that I've got this unbelievable skills. Well, 68% is maybe more than somebody else who has 85% but has smaller capabilities. The goal is, how do we maximize what we're doing? And that's a psychological skill. Because what happens is, if we're training ourselves to be perfect and we're training ourselves to have everything there, as soon as something feels off, we start chasing, looking for it. It's like we send out search parties and we don't take the mental energy that it takes to succeed. Capability and capacity is about training athletes and training the mindset of like, did you get done with what you had? We will work on what's missing later. There might not have been anything missing, because there are times that you play that you don't like the group, you don't like the umpire, You don't like the court. You don't like the background. You don't like the way you're feeling. Your body's not moving. You have an inner ear infection. There's all kinds of factors that will just slowly knock away at you. You don't always have 100%. Coaches, stop telling players, it's all there, go play. What I'd rather you say is, our tools are ready. Now let's go take on the game. Don't give them this idea that it's 100 or nothing. It's never 100 or nothing. Give me 100% of what you have, effort-wise and everything. And that's what makes you best. And to the comment, that's what made Tiger Woods the best. Tiger used to always say, God, I felt like I had my B+ game. And he'd win by 4, and people were so ticked. Because what he was saying is, watch out when I have my A game. And he did, Pebble Beach and a couple other places where he just walked away with the field, okay? So what you have to understand is that the best players can maximize what they have. They're not chasing what they don't have. It's not a level whenever we get done and say, how did you do? Well, I got it done. I mean, did you have it all? I mean, did you throw that backdoor slider in the dirt like it was what you wanted? Or maybe you just didn't feel it today and you grinded. I remember watching a perfect game in baseball. Pitcher Kane was his last name for San Francisco. Matt Kane, I think, from San Francisco Giants. And they said, did you know you had it coming out of the bullpen tonight? He goes, oh, Lord, no. He said, when I came out of the bullpen, all I had was a cut fastball. And I just figured for 2 or 3 innings, I was going to throw a cut fastball and see what turned around. That's what capability and capacity is all about. Can you take what you have and realize it's okay? It's good enough. Okay, give enough. Okay? All right. Makes sense? Andrew, well, give 100% of what you have. Is that a fired up emoji or is that a frustrated emoji? If you want more on capability and capacity, I devoted an entire chapter to this in the Mindside Manifesto. Go to my books page at brettmccabe.com/books and you can pick up a copy of the manifesto. Look, I know it's like eating a 72-ounce steak, hopefully with a little crab meat on top, a little Worcestershire sauce, maybe a little hollandaise. It's a lot. It's a meal. But that's the way I write. That's why it takes me so long to write, but I give you everything I have. So the Mindside Manifesto has got an entire chapter on capability and capacity. It is a must read for every single person who competes. We'll be right back on segment 3. I want to answer a couple questions before we dig in here to Coachability. Fitzy Golf Pro said, what would you suggest to a guy that gets trash talked and psyched out by his 3 mates? He is the best player in his group at a 9 handicap. Short of changing your group, what would you suggest? Well, I've tried that, and a couple of my guys in my group we can't get rid of. But, the thing is, you got to learn to deal with it. You can't control the environment you're in, right? So you got to learn that those people will bother you. They will trash talk you. And more than likely, they've hit a nerve. So make it a strength. Say, okay, listen, like this weekend I choked twice, literally. Played a game of Wolf. If you know the 5-game Wolf, we had a major carryover going, and I 3-putted, long putt, but my partner, or the guy I was against right next to me, he didn't 3-putt. I did. And when I was over the putt, I was like, come on, don't 3-putt this. Don't 3-putt this. And I knew walking off, I was like, come on, this is what you do for a living. You teach this stuff. And I still struggled. Right. So we go a couple holes later and I hit it to like 6 feet. And I think it's much closer. So I'm going to go alone, which triples the bet. 4 guys hit 4 balls inside me and got me. It happens, right? At least you compete. I missed mine. They made theirs. All right. Michael has a question. My son just started high school freshman lacrosse today. Sweet, but he's sore. Trying to be positive, but he was cut in other sports. Any advice on being positive and a dad at the same time? All right. Let me get on my soapbox for a minute. Step up. All right. I hate developmental sports that cut kids who are high school freshmen and sophomore. There is such a differential in age. There's such a difference in developmental age and everything. Every kid has the right to improve. And as coaches, we must develop plans, whether or not somebody is maybe not right for the high school team. They need to pattern them and move them into a sport and a team and developmental league that can help them. If this is someone who's there, ask him a question. What can you learn to become while you're playing lacrosse? It's a great sport. It's physical. It's going to be a much, much faster growing sport in the United States in the next 10 to 15 years because you're seeing a lot of people, particularly in Alabama, who are football players who are moving over because it's a physical game and doesn't seem to have the concussion issues. So I think just tell them to get after it. Come on, we got your back. And if not, we're going to continue to work and get better. I played 1 year of varsity baseball. I was held back to play junior varsity my junior year. So it happens. All right. Remember being at Ramon Martinez no-hitter back in 95. That was special. I miss seeing a perfect game by a check swing in Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park versus the Yankees after 9/11. So let's talk about coachability. So I get asked a lot, hey, Brett, these kids are different today. Yep, they are. You were different from the generation that preceded you. You know, there was a generation, and I was a kid of the 80s. The 70s kids had long hair, feathered hair, right? Drove Trans Ams, smoked cigarettes, right? I mean, I always laugh about Grease, Danny is, whatever his name is, smoking cigarettes at track practice. So, every generation is different. This generation is different for a reason. They have more anxiety than we've ever seen. Reports are continuing to come out of the real pandemic that we're seeing from anxiety and stress. And you say, well, is it the demands we're putting on them? Yes. Social media, without question, particularly in women, young adolescent females. You keep looking at what it takes and the demands. The standards are out of control. Used to be a good ACT score was high 20s. Now you got to have a 34, 35, 36. I mean, give me a break. It's a terrible test if that many kids are getting perfect scores. You got to go to this college or that college. Really? Go to the college that gets you the best, and so forth, right? So we have kids that, just like we were talking about, right? A kid who's been cut a couple times. And as coaches, we have to understand what they need, where they are, and help them and teach them to be coached. Okay. And so the important thing is I think, Dan, you're right. I think there was Bad News Bears was also smoking, but I think the guy in Greece was too. My wife's going to kill me because that's her favorite movie. Here's some tips on being coachable. And this is me, you, anybody else. Too oftentimes the message is lost in the delivery. And the first time that somebody gives us feedback, what happens is we put up resistance. Oh God, I want to make sure. Like if you got a school paper back and somebody wrote all over it in red ink, you'd have an immediate visceral reaction to it because you're going to look for the comments. You can, whenever I do big speaking things, they're always like, oh, spin you the speaker evals. I'll send it to you afterwards. I'm like, fine. I always want to see what people think. And I always love it. It's like, Brett's really arrogant. I'm like, okay. And that will stick with me. That'll stick with me. Okay. Or something like that. You can call me arrogant. But the point is that one little comment sticks. And in coachability, so many of our kids are coming into environments where they're hoping that what they have is exactly what they need to perform with. And as a result, what happens is the first time that they receive any kind of criticism or correctability in coaching, they just see it as like a breakdown that they're not good enough versus what previous generations really had to be, which was developmental. We all had to develop. We all had to grow. We had to become something. And because of the earlier adopters and the people who are having success much faster, that need to be perfect is so good so fast. And we have to be careful of it. So if you want to be better and be a better coach, listen to the message. Be a better coaching. Coaches, teach your players this. Learn to listen to the message. Learn to resist resistance. Hey, don't put up the walls. Okay, don't put up the walls. I'm not attacking you. I'm helping you. It's not personal. It's never personal. Let them understand that. I'm giving you feedback because I want to help you. Coaches, I want you to understand this about coaching. Give them 3 to 1, positive to negative. So that doesn't mean like, man, you're awesome. You're so fun to coach. You suck. You're so fun to coach. Positive and negative can be done over time. Like, hey, when you see somebody trying to make the correction, tell them that. That's what I'm talking about. You're going to get it. Just keep at it. You got this. See how the positive wheels in there? Or you got to do that better. Get your butt down. Get in the right position. But cycle back on them and be like, that's what I'm talking about. Give them reinforcement. It'll help them. And then last, you got to be able to separate the data from the drama. The data meaning, hey, what is the coach trying to tell me away from the noise and the loud and the screaming? Every coach screams because they want you to pay attention. But just like a barking dog is telling you a message, You got to understand what that message is. Is it about having a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset? Yes, in simple terms. Okay, it's a good question. So Carol Dweck years and years ago did some research looking at the differences between growth and fixed. Growth meaning I'm a work in progress versus fixed. You got the best. I need to show you. And it was done on academic research. And essentially what they found was prodigy kids did not perform as well because they were they believed that they should be that good. I talk about it in the Mindside Manifesto. They should be that good. They shouldn't struggle. Okay, whereas growth mindset, people are like, I'm not that good, so I'm going to get better. And there's something about having a blue collar mentality, kind of like that, simplification terms. But this whole idea that I'm a work in progress and I'm doing everything that I can to get better. So that's something to really consider. Growth is not always a work in progress. The fixed mindset is a lot of times driven by a heightened self-belief that is fueled by fear and doubt. It's like propped up, but not propped up on proper foundations. So when you have somebody resisting as a coach, you need to understand why are they resisting? Not just because they're a jerk. They're resisting because there's either the information they can't receive or they've never received information before and don't know what to do with it. Teach them how to be more coachable. As coaches, if John Wooden took the time to teach players how to put their socks and shoes on and tie them, we can teach kids how to be coached. It's all of our responsibility to teach them. If you want to send this segment, follow my social media, and this will come around. And you can send it to every one of your teams, every one of your players. Say, hey, guys, here's a good piece right here. Trust me, I've been chewed out many times in my life. The job was to always understand what the message was. Come back for segment 4 in just a second. Yeah, please follow me on TikTok because I've got all the mad dances, trust me. But I like TikTok. It's actually a great place to interact and see some great content. And if you're not on TikTok to watch the cooks and the people ripping on other cooks, that's just comedy at night. Yeah, Dan, I'll talk about expectations in a minute. Let's take a look at some of the myths that I hear. One of the cool things that I get is I get to see a lot of commentary on social media. You get a lot of things that bounce around and ideas that people espouse, and they come out. Like one of my favorite of all times was that the mind doesn't know what the word don't means. And I used to hear this, like somebody said, don't throw a ball, don't miss a pass, don't hit it in the water. And they would say, all your mind hears is hit it in the water. Okay, garbage, untrue, total myth, no truth to that whatsoever. Okay, it was a made-up thing that got perpetuated and sent around forever. Just like the story about the guy who was in prison, or the POW that used to see himself hitting golf shots every day, 100,000 times a day, and then came out and shot the best score ever. There's no truth to that. That has never been validated. It's a great story to speak. And if I don't know if I was a POW and I got to go play golf again, I'd probably play the best. Thank you, Fitzy. It's maybe I'm in the room by myself a lot and practicing and just believing that there are people there listening to me. So thank you. I've seen this for a long time. Thank you. So there's no evidence to that. If I was a POW, I'd probably have played pretty well too. Fact is, visualization works and all those other things will work. But I think sometimes we make the mental game to be like these all-knowing thought processes that if you do these, they're going to work. When in reality, everything's kind of murky. One of the ones that gets me is as players will say, well, if I play better, my role will increase. Maybe not this season. Coaches have to establish role expectations for every player on their team. Just because you're playing well now doesn't mean you're going to play well down the road. It doesn't mean that other players aren't going to play well. Sometimes players play on teams on the field, the best 9 players or the 9 best. Well, we used to play the best 9 collaboratively. Sometimes the left tackle makes the left guard better, even though there's maybe a more talented left guard, but putting those two together makes that side of the line even better. So sometimes your play doesn't increase your role, but your commitment to the team does. And so if players can focus on what it takes to commit to the team and do the little things right and not be self-absorbed onto their own process, they actually may play better. I know in basketball you see getting comfortable, uncomfortable, absolutely. But I've seen coaches get out there and, like tell kids, listen, I need to see the high performance defense. Players don't understand that. The kids get out there and play defense. All of a sudden, they're on the court more. Let me talk about expectations, because this is a myth, and I'm going to jump this one in there. So people say you should have high expectations. Expectations are entitlements based on the future. Taking the past and predicting the future. And I'm going to be honest with you, everyone, you guys all, every one of you can't predict how you're going to play. You suck at it. Okay? If that was the case, you go down to a sports book and load up on yourself every time. You don't know what's going to be in front of you. And when your expectations are how you expected to play well because of something else, and what happens is pressure increases, stress increases, tension increases, flexibility drops, and you play like crap. So instead of expectations, I want players to say, I believe that I'm ready to compete and take on anything. Belief is different than expectations. So I want high belief. Okay. How does that translate to corporate America? Oh, absolutely. Right? You got to be uncomfortable giving talks. Got to be uncomfortable. I had a great boss tell me, don't ever think about your next job in corporate life. Think about your last job. I spent 8 years in corporate life doing work in the pharmaceutical industry and doing education, training, medical strategy. And she said, think about your last job that you're going to retire from in this business, in this field, and then start building backwards and move into uncomfortable positions to learn those skills. It was at that time I knew I wanted to be a psychologist working for elite athletes. I'd already had my PhD and was already licensed. I just didn't know what it was going to take. And I took the uncomfortable step of leaving pharma and leaving a very profitable business to get out here in the real world and hustle. What about feeling jealous? I've had this question come up to me. Is it wrong to feel jealous of another player's performance? Nope, not at all. Jealousy is one of the core emotions that humans feel. The difference is if you're jealous and you see yourself as falling short versus seeing yourself and being inspired, that's the difference. I want you to feel jealous, but not in a negative way. I want you to see yourself in the position they have and be successful, not at their expense, but I want you to have that experience. Okay. What about emotions? Can you control them? I hear people say, I got to control my mind. I got to control my emotions. I got to control my thoughts, which is the next one. You can't control any of them. Emotions are the physiological response that we have to stimuli, things that happen to us, that primes the body for action. And to me, thoughts, feelings, and actions are all kind of working in a triangle. But the thing about emotions are sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're stressed, sometimes we're angry. I don't have a problem with primary emotions. If somebody were to, cut you off in traffic, you may get a little upset, you may get a little flustered, you may get a little physiological response to it. The next emotion is the problem. The secondary emotion that is judgmental about yourself, judgmental about the circumstance, or escalates because of something else. I'm fine with primary emotions. You can't control them. But we can become a lot better at turning the channel, finding a better, healthier outlet with our secondary emotions. Don't get mad about getting mad. Don't get angry about getting angry. Don't get sad about being sad. Just be what you are and turn the channel and find a healthier outlet. Same with thoughts. Thoughts arise because it's our mind's way of seeing threat in the horizon. We have to identify things and we're looking for things. And our thought is just nothing more than a thought radar. And we're under stress, under a lot of pressure. Those things are elevating. Okay? And our thoughts increase. And you know what? You are never going to have a series of positive thoughts under the biggest moments. You're not. Why? Because if it's really important to you, there's a lot of risk there. Okay? So your thoughts are going to increase. They're probably going to be negative, and so be it. So what are you going to do about it? What you're going to do is acknowledge the thought and then turn the channel. Okay? All right, let's go to this last one. Hard work leads to success. Nope. Hard work increases the likelihood of success, but doesn't lead to it. You can work all day long on the wrong things. You can work all day long and not believe in yourself. And some people can show up, not prepared, not ready, and have success. But more than likely, I'd invest in somebody who works hard, does the work, and knows how to filter the material. When I ask players, why are you going to succeed? They always say, I work hard. I'm like, so does everybody. Right? What are you going to do different? You're going to be better at the work that you do that's so hard? And are you going to filter it better? Those are the things I want. All right, that's segment 4. Let me take a question here from Andrew. I stopped parents after saying we have high expectations for this one in front of the junior player. Made me cringe for their father did this to me. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? Yep, Doc. Yep, 100%. Like I have look, I want to get them in as many circumstances as they can to learn who they are and find out whatever path they forge forward will support. We'll be right back for our last segment. All right, back to segment 5. I got a great question here just because it's very complimentary, and I always like to read compliments. So if you want to get your question answered on the chat, just put a compliment at the front, and I'll answer it. Dan said, I've attended several fantastic presentations that you've done, including one you did for the Met PGA. What training did you do in helping your ability to do public speaking? Well, I was never afraid of public speaking because I like talking. Seriously, when I was at LSU, I remember my coach used to make us go and give talks to people. And my sophomore year, after we won the national title, I gave a talk to the Louisiana chapter of the NAACP, and it was filled up and it was great. And, he used to talk to us and teach us ways to communicate. And he'd say, go get yourself a job today. Go make a connection today, whatever. Talk about yourself. And then when I was in grad school, my professor, who would make us give a lot of talks, he used to say, everybody's nervous at the beginning of a talk. Speak about the thing you know the most in the first 3 minutes, which is always about yourself. Then you'll get in the rhythm. And then I started to work for pharma, and I probably gave 300 talks a year, traveling the Southeast and giving talks. You get really good at giving information in a scientific manner. And my whole goal was to communicate science effectively. So I wanted to communicate science instead of read data. And then when I got done, I started studying the way that guys like Thomas Plummer in the golf fitness world started communicating about telling stories around a picture, around a thought to bring you in. So when I give presentations, I don't usually use bullet points. I use a picture, and then that allows me to tailor the talk to the audience. A couple of years ago, right before COVID, I went into a corporate setting, and they asked me to give the same talk 3 1 hours in a row, back to back to back to 3 different groups. And I told him, I said, everybody's going to get a different presentation because I don't know what the audience feels like. And I don't know. And so I did. I gave 3 different presentations with the same slide set. So, the thing about it is I like to give talks to things that I know something about, but I love to listen to speakers tell a story. Best speaker I've ever listened to was a guy by the name of DeWitt Jones, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer for the National Geographic. Oh my goodness. In pharma, we got to see so many great corporate speakers that come in and speak to our teams. And he talked about seeing things from different angles and how you can see a flower and then you look up underneath and the sun is glistening up underneath it and it leads to a Pulitzer Prize. So see things from different angles. That's kind of how I looked at public speaking. So thank you. I don't think people appreciate Skip Bertman enough. 1,000%. Nope, they don't. He is the modern day John Wooden. And Basham, who's on the call with me tonight, he is from our family tree of baseball. His coach, Mike Bianco, I played for. And Mike Bianco was a catcher at LSU, then coached me. They went on to win a national title at Ole Miss. So Basham and I speak the same vernacular. We come from the same family tree. He just looks at his coach with a little bit different than I do because I knew him when he was younger. He knew him when he was older. So he thinks he's like this old guy. I see him as still the young guy. But if you haven't watched the videos, Hold the Rope on ESPN, Google it. Phenomenal. Not because I made a couple cameos. That was not consistent with my playing time. I did play a lot, but there are a lot better players than me. And then a couple of books that he's got out. If you ever want, I have a great podcast that I did with him. It's so powerful. So anyway, everybody should study him. All right. So as we're wrapping up here tonight, I hope Middle Game Live gives you what you want. I don't know where this is going. I really don't. But what my dream is one day, I'll be honest with you, this is my dream. I hope I have a dream that comes on here that every high school kid out there, and parent is sitting and studying this and watching this, whether it's live or whatever. Because I believe that the mental game is one of those areas that we talk about. We give them a book. Kids ain't going to read a book today. And I want us to understand what it takes. And I want to bring on some guests. We're going to do some stuff. Guys, this is an investment. This is an emotional investment. I'm not going to fail at this. We're going to deliver it. We're going to be great at this. And we're going to bring some cool stuff out. But I need you to help me share it. If you know people who could watch it, tell them to go watch it. Tell them to download it. Tell them to disagree with me. Tell them to come on here and join. As you can see, I want to make it interactive. I don't care if it's formal. I don't care if it's casual. I don't care. Hell, I'm in shorts tonight. Let's rock. Let's have some fun, and let's do some good stuff. And let's make the mental game the priority for 2023. And let's make the mental game the best that we can do. It's an honor to be here. And damn it, let's make the Mental Game Live the best show on the streaming internet right now. Okay, thank you very much, you guys. Thank you. And I'll see you guys. Our next one is, hold on. Our next Mental Game Live, I'm at the Players Championship all next week. I'll send some video. Make sure you follow me on social. But our next one that we will have will be March 14th at 7 p.m. Central Time. So we're going to try to do them every week. There's some weeks I can't do it. Don't know what my schedule is. I'm on the road. But we will be there. And I will take video from the players, from the Bay Hill. Can't take it from the Masters. Okay, all that other stuff. Please subscribe. Hit and crush that subscribe button on YouTube so you know when I'm live. If you miss it, you can get it downloaded. And stay on my social channels so you can see all the clips. And keep following. Keep giving me comments. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on March 14th.